There.
Sit back.
Okay, we're recording now. Well, first I'd like to say that we're fortunate tonight to have two knowledgeable and experienced photographers from the Ann Arbor Club to be panelists for us. Hopefully you saw the reminder I sent out. It had their short bios and attachments for their website, so you could go look and see their work. First is Keith Matz. Keith, Keith has traveled extensively throughout the US and Canada with some trips to Africa, South America as well, doing landscape and nature photography. He's had various exhibits over the years. He's judged competitions in camera clubs as well. Secondly is Howard Bond. Howard.
Hi.
Howard's a renowned black and white fine art photographer. He studied with Ansel Adams back in the 70s. His work is in many museums and collections around the US and around the world. He wrote for 24 years for Photo Techniques magazine. He's had over 2,000 students attend his workshops over 34 years. So we're very fortunate for both of these folks. I urge you to go to both of their websites so that you can view their work. It's really worth it. And on that note, we'll get started. Give me a moment and I'll share my screen.
Oh, one thing, can you have everybody, mute everybody except the panelists? Because I was hearing some background, Tim.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can you mute everybody but the panelists so that we can make sure that we don't have crossover?
Sure. And folks, please use the chat function and we can, let's see, mute all. And if you use the chat function, Rags will keep track of that, and any questions that come up for Howard or Keith, you should be able to get answers too. You can unmute by using the space bar if you need to talk or have a question. Okay, let's try this again. Oops. Sorry. Okay. And first up is Player Shadow by Mary Pierce. And this goes to Keith. Keith, are you with us?
He may not be unmuted. Just as you were moving into the view, he was the one panelist that was unmuted.
Okay,
Howard is
I'm
unmuted.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I like this one a lot. I like the simplicity. I like that you included the whole shadow in the picture. It seems to form a nice triangle with his arm and the shadow and his leg there. And just a classic street photography scene. Very well, very good.
Okay. Next is Baby's Breath on Black by Alicia Erickson. And that's to Howard.
This one seems to me to need to be simplified. You could zero in on several blossoms and make the ones in the background much more out of focus by using a large aperture, or you could use focus stacking to achieve great depth of field if you wanted everything in focus. I don't know how to do many of the things I'm going to mention because I don't do digital photography, but I hear people talking about them, and so I will mention a few of them.
Okay. And next is Black Lives Matter by Bill Mumford for Keith.
Okay. I think it's a real interesting view. I like the contrast between kind of a modern movement and the old barn. on the technical side, the picture's way over sharpened. When you blow that up, you see halos around all the edges. One thing you might do, it looks like a refrigerator or something on the porch. I might kind of clone that out, but
Okay.
nice subject. Yeah.
Okay. And then Pete Meyer with Bufka Barn.
This is very good print quality with proper contrast and exposure. The extremes of the tonal scale are just right for me. The more I look at it, the better I like it. I don't have any complaints.
Regs, you got the chat okay? All right. Well,
Yep,
next.
I'm following along and no questions so far, but everybody, it's going great.
Okay.
It's so exciting. I'm having so much fun.
All right. So next up, Butterflies Are Free by Dennis Holly. And this goes to Keith, I think.
Well, that's very well done. It's often difficult to get in focus, you know, the butterfly and the flower. I would like just a little more space around the top of the image there, so the butterfly feels just a little bit cramped in the composition. I would also lighten the body of the butterfly and maybe a little bit on the inner wings there, make those spots stand out just a little more. But a nice situation.
Okay. And now we have Jay Peterson's Coastal Range for Howard.
I've lost my Zoom connection, so I don't see the ones that Keith talks about, but that's okay. I can have copies of mine.
Sorry.
So let's see. Oh, yes. At first glance, this one seemed a little bit too busy to me. And I thought perhaps it would be simpler if one would crop in from the left, not quite to the first dark shaded area. And then that puts more attention, it seems to me, on the three successively smaller shaded areas. So that, to me, simplifies the picture quite a bit. Let's see, anything else? I guess that takes care of it for me.
Okay. Next up is Corn Crib by David Fox.
Well, it's interesting grunge texture. It looks like that you put on this photo. I like the effect. I would right above the shed there, I would add more of the grunge effect in that area. And then I'd also like to really darken down that branch on the left, that white branch. Your eye goes right to that white branch, and maybe even add a little bit of the grunge to the shed itself. But otherwise, I like the effect with the old time border and stuff. Yeah, very nice.
Great, thanks. And we have Alan Hewer's Entangled for Howard.
Yes, Alan, it would be helpful if you would include a lot less in your pictures, including your one of the rocks. In this one, a stronger composition could be made incorporating some of the diagonals. Composing card would be a big help. I don't know if any of you have had any contact with composing cards, but I carried one always my whole life when I was out photographing. And if I lost my composing card, I felt paralyzed because it is so effective at being able to compose the picture nicely in the field. One time I left my composing card on a cog railway in Switzerland, and the operator very kindly handed it back to me the next time I wrote on that. Okay, I'm finished.
I will vouch for that card. I used it for a long time after meeting Howard, and I've kind of fallen into lazy ways of late, but it does help. It does help. Okay. Next up is the great egret, Leo Paveglio.
Well, Leo, like Howard, I'm a big fan of cropping, and I would crop all the way down to just above the top of the branch there, and maybe take just a little bit off the left also. And I think that's about it. It looks like you have most of the detail in the bird. The bird seems nice and sharp, but yeah. Nice bird.
And then for Howard, I found Joy in Fishtown by Pete Meyer.
Okay, I'm going back and forth between all of the pictures because I don't have Keith anymore. So now I've got to get back on my own. Okay, I got it. I thought that this would be simplified enough if you would crop in from the left and get rid of the point of snow-covered part sticking out on the left, and get rid of some of the out of focus pilings here by cropping up to where you would get rid of the snow that's on the boardwalk. And if you do that, the thing gets considerably simpler, although it still is a very complicated picture. And of course, I don't know if any of you folks use image stabilization to simulate great depth of field, but seeing something out of focus like this, it makes me remember to mention that. I'm done.
Okay. Next is Andy Merrick's Just Cruising. Keith?
Well, I like your conversion here, but again, I'm going to crop here. I'm going to crop all that grass out of the foreground, and I'm also going to crop off the left. That flagpole bothers me, a big white line over there, and I think you have a pretty nice composition if you do that. The other thing I would do, I'd like to just see a little more texture in the white part of the lighthouse there. I think it's there in your data, but I would darken that down so you can see just a little more texture in the real white part. That's all I have.
And next up is mine, Moon Over Dune for Howard.
I was a little distracted by the fact that the moon is so big, made me wonder if that came from a different negative, but maybe you had a long lens on and that did it. At any rate, I don't think it's nice of me to wonder that, so I'll be quiet about it. It's really very, very effective picture, I think.
Okay. Thanks. And next we have, oops, Nature versus Man-Made, Mary Ellen Sullivan.
Okay. Well, this one's pretty busy also, but I would crop off most of that brush on the bottom, and I would come in on the left to get just enough of that tree there. Then I would also bring up the shadows. I'd like to, I know you could see a little bit more detail in the dark parts of the tree and under the bridge. I'd like to, and I think you could make this sky much more dramatic by darkening it down and increase the contrast in the sky. And I think it might have a real compelling image. Just my suggestions.
Okay, and then now we have Nuts and Bolts by Rochelle Stark.
I think this is very well done. I can't think of a way to improve it. A different picture could have been made by moving a little to one side so one silo would be bigger than the other, but I'm not sure you'd like that better. So I'm happy the way it is.
Okay. I really like that one too. I'll say that. Next up is Old House by Jerry Stutzman.
Well, Jerry, I love your subject matter there. I like old houses and stuff a lot too, but I'm not seeing any detail at all in the snow. It's way blown out. And so you need to bring your highlights way down, and I would bring the shadows up, and I think you'll find a nice balance. Shooting in the snow can be difficult because of the high contrast, but I like your composition there, but that's what I would do on that one. Definitely bring some texture out in the snow.
Yeah. Okay, next another old thing, an old truck, Leo Paveglio.
This snow seems to be not quite as light as some of the others, but still I think it would be better off to darken the highlights a little bit. I especially like the foliage, and I would increase the contrast in that part of the picture if I could. From the truck on down, I'd like to see the snow slightly darker to give an impression of substance.
Yeah. Okay. And then Riggs Avery for One Head Up.
Oh, it looks like it's a very nice conversion to the black and white. Real nice tonal range, as Howard would say. A little bit too much going on. I would crop off the right side, maybe just enough to include that one other buggy in the street. And then I'd come up just a little bit from the bottom too. But other than that, it's a nice scene on Mackinac Island, it looks like.
Okay. And then Alan Hewer again for On the Rocks for Howard.
Yeah, I'm toggling back and forth between two databases here. Okay, well, I know this picture from memory. This is Alan's bunch of rocks. It's similar to the other picture of his we saw in that it has an awful lot in it, and a composing card would be a big help in deciding how to make a stronger composition out of it. Now, on this one, I see quite a nice picture in there. You crop up from the bottom up to the V between two big rocks. And is that my problem?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, if you crop up to the V between the two big rocks and get rid of a big rock on each side of the picture near the center line, left to right, and then crop from the top to just above the semicircular. I'm not seeing this right now because I'm
Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption, Howard. Tim, you need to mute Roger. We're getting all his background noise. Sorry, Howard, I apologize. And then Pete Meyer needs to be muted too.
Somebody's watching Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, agreed. Pete, if you could unmute, that would be helpful too, please.
So what's left if after you do all that cropping, you have the two parts of the two rocks on the bottom, then you have a single rock, and then you have two rocks, and then above that, finally you have the one that's almost a semicircle. So those six together are quite a bit stronger than looking at the whole collection of rocks. And I think that would be quite a worthwhile picture to have.
Okay. And next we have Marilyn Hoogstraten, Overgrown Trail for Keith.
Well, Marilyn, I like the way you've processed the trail. It has a kind of a nice mood to it. I think I would like to have a point of interest probably at, you have this beautiful leading line, but it's not really leading anywhere. So a little something, you know, a rock, a big tree of some kind in the PowerPoint there where you're pointing. But I like how you vignetted the picture, and I like the little curve in the trail there. That's it.
Okay. Next, Overgrown, Pastoral Setting by Marilyn Hoogstraten.
If this is to be a picture of the barn, I would suggest cropping half of the stone wall at the bottom because it's such a powerful competitor for the barn. If you deliberately have darkened the edges, I think it's more than necessary. I would lighten also the black leaves on the left a little bit. But with that cropping, there's quite a lot more attention on the barn if that's what you'd like.
All right. Next is Point Betsy Seawall, Ed Crippen.
Okay. I kind of like the subject material, but I think this would be a good vertical. And then you would want to bring up those shadows. I'd like to see some detail in those real black areas on the seawall there. But yeah, the nice diagonal lines, I think would be interesting, cropped as a vertical. Yeah.
Okay. And then we have Preservation by Ann Kennedy.
Right. Well, this is a wonderful sky. I wouldn't want to do anything that would hurt that. But everything below the horizon could be just a little bit lighter without hurting the sky. This might make it necessary to burn the bright spot on the side of the barn. Maybe you clone that from something, I don't know. I'd crop the first tree on each side. They're rather small, and that would not be a major crop. Okay, that's about it. That's a nice picture.
Great. And then we have Sarah by Jim Jurowitz.
This is one of my favorite pictures that I got to critique here. I love the look on her face. I like how the background's kind of out of focus. It draws your attention, and it seems to capture, I think, probably quite a bit of her personality. Very well done, Jim.
Okay. And Andy Merrick, Sleeping Alone.
Okay. You know, I'm having a hard time keeping up here.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about this one when you were talking about yours. Anyway, this is very striking, but I wonder if you have to have this much contrast. Of course, the scene is incredibly contrasty, but do you ever use high density, what do you call that? High density range feature,
HDR.
the HDR. It seems like it'd be worth trying on this. Now, you might not like it to get more detail in the shadows, but I think you could do it judiciously without ruining the effect of the picture. So I think you deserve a lot of praise for your originality on this picture. Very nice.
And then we have Snow Globe by Steve Engel.
I really like this one too, Steve. I think, you know, a lot of times people don't want things centered, but I think you could crop this to a square. The stuff on the right doesn't really contribute to the picture, but it's a really nice scene that you have in your globe there. So yeah, I would just crop it to a square. Very well done. I really like that.
Okay, and Howard, we're skipping this next one, so I just got a placeholder here for a second. And we're going right on to Midsummer Night's Fun by Mary Picar. Back to Keith again.
Well, I'm completely lost.
No, don't be lost.
I can't.
You skip the one that you had there because the person withdrew it.
The snowy owl.
Yes, it's been withdrawn.
Okay, my next one says spring has arrived.
And we'll get to that right after Keith,
Okay.
I think.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
It's a cute little girl, but for portraits, you really want softer light, I think. And it's the light's real harsh. I think you could help that out by, you know, bringing up your shadows and toning down the highlights. And then for the background, I would darken it. And if you use like negative clarity on it, you can easily blur the background. But all those little white spots in the background are real distracting. I think, and this is one where you could vignette it. If you use Lightroom, I would use the radial filter and really, yeah, darken and blur the background. But a cute little girl.
Okay. Now we have Springs Arrived by Roger Kaler for Howard.
Well, this one cries out for some cropping. It could be a lot simpler if you'd crop in from the left far enough to get rid of the small petals. The big ones don't seem to conflict much with the main blossom. That would still leave the task of darkening the sunspots at the bottom of the bottommost petal, which I guess you folks can do very easily. So that's about all I would do to it.
And then we have Summer Burst, also by Roger Kaler for Keith.
Okay, it looks like you have a nice close-up on a poppy. It looks like, I guess I would like to see a little bit more on the bottom there. When you merge with the head, it creates kind of a arrow effect and draws you down there. See, the top corner is kind of bright. The top right corner should be darkened down. And the lower left corner could be darker too. Looks like a little glare or something there. But there's a really nice detail there in the seed pack. That's all I have.
Then we have Reflections on a Summer Night, again by Mary P. Carr for Howard.
Is this the little girl?
Yes.
Okay. We had an earlier version of it, which had a lot of distraction in the background, but her face was absolutely wonderful. I think this one isn't quite as wonderful from the standpoint of the parents, but it's more attractable photographically. I would suggest slightly darker overall and considerably darker in the shawl. The bright spot behind her left shoulder also needs some attention, but otherwise fine.
We have Rochelle Stark's The Neighbors.
Yeah, this one, it's a beautiful conversion. I love all the nice tones in this one. I like the ivy growing up the tree. It seems to give it the picture some real nice depth. As far as I might crop just a little bit off the top, but really not as convinced that I'd have to see it and maybe darken the light area on the left there, or yeah, darken that down just some, so draw you right to the center of the photo.
Okay.
Well done.
Now we have Jim Jurowitz as the singer for Howard.
It took a lot of work to get a similar effect with film. I tried it. I hope this was easier. I think this treatment gives excitement and a strong feeling of movement to this image. It's so different from anything that I'm familiar with. It's a little hard to know what to say, but it seems to me this was the right image to get this treatment. And I like the fact that it makes a lot of excitement and movement.
Okay. Next up is mine, Thorson Farm Storage.
Well, Tim, we're going to take the crop tool to this one too.
Are you? I was struggling with some of that.
I could see the tractors, the subject. Definitely that upper right corner is way too dark, but just with a board, I would crop it down just below that little slit above the tractor. And then I would darken the door frame there on the left down just quite a bit, actually.
Okay.
And I think that's how I would do it, but
Yeah. Okay.
I can see that railing along the top of the door is interesting, and I can see how you wanted to include it. But
I was trying, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
So Tim, I have a comment. The previous image, the singer, I think it would be interesting to hear how that was processed, because that was a very unique edit.
Okay. From Jim or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can Jim, can you respond? How you did this? Solarization, I think.
You might have to unmute.
hold the space bar down, or
Yeah, there you go.
I just pushed all the I can't think of the term, but
presets.
yeah, it was the it was like a codolith. I was going for a codolith in film. That's what I believe Howard was talking about, where you just go for the black and whites. I
Right.
can't, to go into how I actually did it, I played with it for a while, but I did do it in Photoshop to get the effect.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Rex. If I go into detail, it would, I don't want to go into a long explanation, but you can do it in Photoshop.
No.
Yeah, you could do it.
Okay, thank you.
You could do it in Lightroom too with Nick software for the silver effects. They
Yes,
have
probably. Yeah.
a solarization thing that would come up with something similar, I think. So, yeah, okay. Where were we? That one. Now is to Step or Not to Step by Mary Pierce for Howard.
My impression when I first saw this was that the background has a little too much contrast. But then I thought, when I looked at those shoes, they don't look very contrasty. And it made me wonder where they came from. I could imagine them coming from a different image. And they, of course, are a strange kind of shoe to wear on a snowy day. So that makes me sort of cynical here. But having a composite photograph is not a problem. I think it doesn't bother me if somebody does that. I've done it myself once. I don't think that people who saw mine knew that it was a composite, but most people wouldn't think this was. It's just a nice composition.
Okay, next up is Dennis Howley's Trick or Treat for Keith.
Well, Dennis, I love the mood in this one. The title of the picture, it really fits the image and how you processed it. I really wouldn't do too much different because I think you have the effect that you wanted to get.
Okay.
Tim, I just want to make a comment, just so Howard is aware. Mary Pierce explained that those feet in the image are hers, and they weren't a composite yet. That's actually in camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
All
good.
right. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem, Howard. I just wanted you to I thought it would be fun to just make you aware. That's all.
Yep. Good to know. Okay, and next is Two Sioux Bridges by Jay Peterson.
This is very well done technically. The texture in the snow is my favorite part of it. I can't think of anything that I would change. It's just fine the way it is.
Very nice. That's saying something. Okay, Waiting for Spring by Jerry Stutzman. Keith.
Okay, Jerry, just a little bit too busy for me there. What I thought, again, we're going to take that crop tool, and I see a real nice image using the two lines of trees on the left, or the center and left, or doing center and right. Probably the center and right a little bit more. You have the two nice diagonals in there, and then crop off a lot of the blank sky and snow from the bottom, and I think it look real nice. You might want to bring up the shadows just a little bit more, see if you can get just a little detail in the dark parts of the trees. But yeah, I like the image, but it needed to be cropped down to simplifies it.
Next is Warrior Woman by Alicia Erickson.
Warrior Woman is a great title, I think, for this mysterious picture. I'd like a little more shadow detail in the foreground, if you can arrange that without making the background too light. But this thing just starts your thinking, and all kinds of strange thoughts are provoked by this picture. So congratulations.
Good. Okay. Next is water reflected in water. Steve Engel.
Okay, Steve, we're going to crop again. I would crop out most of the reflection there on the bottom and off on the right there, and tighten it up. And I kind of did that with the image I had to work with there. I could blow it up, and it looked real nice there, but just a small amount of reflection left in the picture. And then again, bring up some of the shadow detail. See if you can get a little more shadow detail. It's a little bit too dark, but the highlights and shine on the ice is nice.
Next is Winter Crossing. Rags. Oh, sorry, no. White Chairs by Mary Ellen Sullivan for Howard.
The peculiar location of the chairs makes this a mystery. Were they really there, or were they put there by computer trickery? In any case, it's an arresting image, very well done. And I'm prepared to believe either way. It was natural, or it had a little help from the computer. It doesn't matter, it's a wonderful picture.
Howard, it was the view out my window at the Oregon coast about a week and a half ago.
And you found those there?
I was staying in a little cottage and they were right out in front of me.
Wow.
And that was in the morning, about 8:20.
Well, it's a stroke of luck to have that.
The next night, people were in it.
All right.
Thank you.
Winter Crossing by Rags Avery. Keith.
Again, this one is processed nice. There's a lot of really nice tones in there. Maybe bring up a little bit on the shadows, but it looks to me like the horizon's not level. I think the bridge in the background there should be leveled up. And then I would crop in on the left and the right. On the right up to that one board sticking up on the bottom, and on the left, just to that one big tree there. And then that leaves you a nice leading line down the stream to the bridge. And I would lighten that area right above the bridge, and maybe the bridge a little bit and right under the bridge there. And draw your eye in, and maybe darken some of that snow on the left of the river too. But very well done.
Okay. Next is Winter Farmstead by Bill Mumford. Or Howard.
This is a fine record of a farm's buildings. A little less contrast would be appropriate, I think. And the tree near the left edge needs considerable lightening. The curved road would beckon me to do something with it and one building if I were there. I think there's some very good possibilities to be had there. But I don't know your purpose. If you wanted to show all the buildings, I can see why you did what you did. Okay.
Could I just say one thing? I'd love to see that trailer on the left side disappear. If you know how to clone that out, I think
that would simplify matters.
Yeah, and even that there's a signpost right in the center, lower center part there. I would make that disappear.
Next is Winter Mac by Amy Howard. That's
Well, I was just up there a couple weeks ago. Looks like a pretty overcast day there. And again, I would crop off probably 2/3 of the sky there. And I think the ice can give you a nice leading line towards the bridge there. But I would want to increase the contrast quite a bit on just the foreground area there. I think you'd have a real nice composition then.
And then we have Winter's Frenzy by David Fox for Howard.
I'm constantly having to find where I am because I'm going back and forth between two files.
Sorry.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay, I remember this one very well. My first thought when I saw this was of a room divider screen Ansel Adams made many years ago. His image also was made of snow-covered branches and had no center of interest. The branches form a nice pattern, but I'm sort of married to the idea of having some particular place to look at. And of course, this is a whole different motivation for this picture, and entirely okay.
And next up is Ann Kennedy's Worthy.
Well, I realize bison don't always take direction real well, but I think it would have been real nice if you could have asked this bison to give you some of his face. It looks like the image is nice and sharp. I would definitely bring up the shadows though, so you could see more of the detail in his lower legs and stuff. But I think sometimes with wildlife, you have to be real patient and hope that they actually turn and get a little bit better pose there. That's it for.
Then we're going to go into the open category. And some of these were black and white, but we tend to say, put it in the open category if it's over a year old. So if it isn't a recent shoot, you do that. First of those is Belle Isle, Detroit, with Steve Talian.
The sky could be a lot more dramatic with a substantial increase in contrast. That might be tricky to accomplish without changing the lower trees. I think the bottom half of this picture needs to be left the way it is. The fact that you're looking at the shadow side of the tower makes it low in contrast, but I don't know any, I don't think there's anything to be said for changing its contrast, but it would certainly be fun to pep up the sky quite a bit.
Next is Cecil Thomas's Blizzard at Empire Beach.
Cecil, it looks like it's still snowing out there when you went out and took this picture. That's a beautiful leading line down in the picture. Again, maybe just lighten the building there, that house there just a little bit. It kind of gives your eye a place to go and land. But yeah, I like the yellow grass you have there for the foreground. That's real nice. That's all I have on that one.
Okay. Next is Mike Eldridge's Break of Day.
What a wonderful sky and reflection. The image seems to me wider than necessary. I would crop from the left up to about half of the first pier. That would get rid of some of that very dark cloud. Maybe you can lighten the remainder of that cloud a little, but it's just a striking photograph. They're very You should be commended for getting out there at the right time of day for that one.
Yeah. Next is Options by Mike Eldridge.
Mike, I like the simplicity of this one. Um, I would either crop off the left to get rid of that, whatever it is, looks like a chair or something, or try to clone it out. But I love the simplicity of the composition here. Very well done. Yeah, nice.
Okay, and second to the last is The Homestead, Steve L'Italien.
Well, this, on a typical overcast day, this is a little low in contrast. I suggest increasing the contrast until the barn and trees are just right. The sky and snow will then be too white and will need to have to be darkened. But having the dark things in the picture be more contrasted would be a big help, I think. Now, I don't know if you can, how easy it is for you to put in blue sky, but I guess you wouldn't want that if you're concentrating on black and white.
Okay. And lastly, we have Venice by Cecil Thomas.
Well, Cecil, that looks like a really interesting scene, but it's very, very busy. My eye goes right to that billboard, though, for the Prada cup picture on the left. I'm thinking maybe a telephoto lens and just knock off different sections of this picture. I think you'd have a more compelling image. If you wanted to do this as a panorama, you could crop off the bottom and a little off the top. But I think better would be to, with a telephoto, just take different sections of it. And I think there's several really nice pictures within this one. And it's processed very well. I like your tones and your colors in the picture.
Okay. Well, that's it, folks. I'm going to unshare my screen here. So we can get this back. There.
Since we got through this quite well, Tim, can I suggest, since we have such a distinguished set of panelists today, can we ask if anybody has any questions for the panelists?
That'd be great. Anybody?
Well, so for me, I would love to ask Howard, when you're using your card for working a scene to establish your composition, how do you like to use that? How would you employ that in your workflow in the field?
Well, I am acquainted with the dimensions of my card, so I know that if I hold it as far from my nose as I get by doing this with my hand. By the way, are you seeing me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
Yes, Howard, thank you.
And then if I put the card here, this is my normal lens, and this is a slightly long lens. And so this, by where I put it, it tells me which lens to put on the camera. Now, you may not go around changing lenses all the time, but every time you set up the view camera, you have to choose one of your lenses. And this is a time saver for that. But it also lets me decide exactly what I want to include in the picture. So that cuts down on the cropping quite a bit. I don't know what else I should say.
That's great.
But I'm really
so
I've been
so the
I'm sorry.
Ways.
I've been giving sales pitches for the composing cards for many decades. And I have a theory that the people who use a small camera that they can look through think they can't profit from the composing card, but they're kidding themselves.
Yeah.
Anybody can be helped by it. But of course, there's a time saver for the view camera users.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you. Yeah, maybe there's other questions. Let me see the chat, okay? Does anybody else have any questions for Howard or Keith, please?
yeah.
Yeah, question for Howard. I'm curious what kind of camera you use now.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't own a camera.
Ah.
The last good camera I had was a 5x7 Deerdorf, and that was sold to a very good photographer in France.
Yeah.
But I've had Deerdorfs from 4x5, 5x7, 8x10, 11x14. I'm a Deerdorf fan. They're wonderful, but I'm out of it completely now. I don't have a camera. I had a friend who is a very good digital photographer, and he tried to get me interested a year ago or so. And so he lent me a digital camera and a tripod, and I made one picture with it, and then I gave it back to him.
Well, how about your phone? You tried that ever?
I don't own a smartphone.
Oh.
I can't make a picture with the phone. You're looking at a real Luddite here.
I can understand that.
You're not doing any more junkyard pictures, Howard?
No, but one of the pictures that I saw for this meeting had a house that was just loaded with wonderful close-ups, but the person photographed it from a long way away. The close-ups are a lot of fun.
Yeah. Howard used to bring in pictures of cracks and rust and different things that he took with his 5x7 camera. He would bring them into the camera club down in Ann Arbor, and some of them were really amazing, very abstract, really, really nice.
Thank you.
I have a copy of Joe Novotny's truck still.
Oh, really?
I do. It's an abstract Howard did that's, was it broken glass in the windshield, and it was double paned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
I wanted to say one thing on one of the other clubs that I belong. Sometimes the person critiquing will actually have the image, and like for the crops, I think it would be real useful for us to go and crop it the way we see it, and then you could see the before and after picture. It's something you might think about for some other critique sessions.
Yeah, good thought.
Yeah, that's
I used
great.
my cropping L's on the screen today.
Yeah,
I was planning what I was going to say tonight.
that should work. Very good. Well, folks.
So we can't finish this panelist discussion without Howard giving us an Ansel Adams story. I know he hasn't because he gave a talk on it, so I want to hear an Ansel Adams story to finish tonight.
I couldn't.
He's looking for an Ansel Adams story.
Oh. Well, I've got short ones and long ones. I'll do a short one. My first workshop with him was at Yosemite in 1967, but in 1970 and 72, there were workshops in the Carmel area that included a day at Adam's house with him doing printing demonstrations. And he used my negatives both times. And one time he was getting ready to print my negative, and so he had a new densitometer with digital readout. That was new in those days. And so he took a reading from it, and one of the students asked him, "Could you get along without a densitometer?" And Adam says, "Oh yes, I could go to my neighbor's house and use his."
Oh, that was fantastic.
Who is his neighbor? Really? Well,
Hey, Tim, I do have an
Are
announcement.
there any other questions? Oh, good. Thanks, Andy.
Don't forget this Thursday, the 18th at 7 o'clock, we have Joe Edelman going to be putting on our program for us about understanding creativity. So it's a program you're not going to want to miss. He's pretty big out in the East Coast. He's an Olympus. Wow, I just drew a blank on the word. He's a brand representative for Olympus. He's been doing education for a long time, and he does a lot of really unique portraiture work, utilizing some different lighting and stuff. So it's going to help open up some eyes on different ways that we can capture images or create images. So I strongly recommend you join us if you can. And I think if the panelists want to join us, they're more than welcome to, using the same Zoom link that they did for this meeting.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
thanks. What day is that again?
That is the 18th of March, Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Tim, the other one, David Fox has an announcement as well.
Yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, we are actually going to be able to have an exhibit at Bonneville for April and May. So I'll be sending out the word. What I've got to get confirmed, I think their hours are like during the week from 2 o'clock in the afternoon later, maybe until 7. I've got to check. So I can't really say what time we can have drop off, but it looks like March 30th, that Tuesday would be our hang day. I'm going to see if I can set it up so we can drop off Monday afternoon because it might cram us a little bit. Normally we would be able to start earlier hanging, but yeah, we're going to have an exhibit.
Standing.
So
Good.
April and May.
Danny.
So get your work ready.
Tim, we have one question from the.
Okay.
Tim, we have a question from the group. Alicia Erickson is a self-taught photographer and really appreciate the feedback from the two panelists. Thought it was fantastic and wanted to thank them. And wanted to ask, as a self-taught photographer, what would be the most important things to focus on for her education?
Do you need help in learning, like processing the Lightroom?
Yeah, Alicia, can you unmute
So
and
really-
maybe elaborate on your question, please?
Yeah, I think I just see that there's so many things to learn, and so I'll go down one path and then I'll see something else that I don't know anything about and I'll go down that path, but I miss things like the framing card that Howard carries with him. That's something that I haven't come across because it's just, a small piece. So maybe I'm missing some basics or something. Like, what would be like really important fundamentals or important people to review their work?
Well, one good thing, you're in a camera club, and I think that you can get a lot of feedback from the people here. I'm sure from the pictures I saw, a lot of them know how to use the Photoshop and Lightroom. You can it really opens a lot of eyes when you see the possibilities and some of the pictures you take, and just getting the feedback from people in this group. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff online, tutorial at Adobe TV. There's all kinds of tutorials on how to use some of their products. So very, very well done. They're easy to use, understand. But yeah,
Thank you.
videos online there's a ton of them out there. Yeah.
I would add one thing too. Find photographers that you like and study their work. See what they've done. See how you think they accomplished it. But the more you look at, photographers that are published out there that you have an affinity to, I think the more excited you get about it, the more you learn.
Yeah, even in art museums, look at paintings and stuff. A lot of the masters in the paintings, just their composition skills and stuff, you can learn a lot if you just look at a lot of the things in the museums.
When I went to the Adams Yosemite workshop in 1967, on the last morning, we met in his backyard and asked anything we wanted to ask. And we had all studied the zone system before we went to this workshop, quite a few of us for the first time. And so we were getting the technique under control. And I asked Adams, well, when we have the technical matters working well, what should we do? And he said, look at photographs. And that wasn't really much of a recipe for me. It wasn't quite what I wanted to hear, but it was very good advice. Actually, the subtext of that is you need to find out what's been done before, so you'll know if you're blazing a new trail or following in somebody's footsteps.
Very good advice.
Thank you.
Advice.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to speak up a little bit. I think it was a great evening, some great advice, some great photos also. And I think the direction the club needs to go is continuously helping our members. And there's a lot of aid out there. We have a lot of good photographers in our club, and lean on them, ask questions, look at magazines, look at pro pictures, study them. And I think with a lot of things we're doing, we're just in a good direction. Great opportunities here. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, Jerry. Well, looks like we're about set then. Howard, can I give you a call right after this? Will you be available for a couple minutes?
Oh, sure.
Okay. And Keith, I want to say thanks. And I'm going to send you a quick email too when I'm done. Everybody else, thanks for being here, participating.
It was nice catching up with you again, Tim.
Yeah, you too. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I want to reach out to the panelists and just say that everybody really appreciated tonight and all the work that you did for developing the feedback. I was monitoring the chat and everybody was so grateful for your feedback and your thoughtful comments. It was very helpful to everybody. Thank you very much.
Good.
You're welcome.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Good
Thank you very much.